All right, welcome to the podcast. Today's is going to be a little bit different. Right after this, Kate and I are going to be going to my brother's funeral. It's been a really sad 2 weeks. So we found out my brother passed away 2 Saturdays ago, unexpectedly. He was a little less than 2 years younger than me, and we were really close. So a lot of you guys might have even seen him around the gym back in the fall. So he probably did about 30 workouts here with us just this past fall, and it's probably been the toughest 2 weeks of my life, and it's certainly the saddest thing that's ever happened to me in my life by probably like 1,000-fold. And I think I wanted to just jump on here and kind of talk about. I think it's important. We can relate some of this back to the gym, to health and fitness, and then really just the community of this place. So, I came in here, I found out Saturday right after our social. So probably 30 minutes after the social ended, I got the phone call that they had found my brother at home. He was in bed. And, Sunday we went down to his house in Cincinnati and spent some time with my parents. And then I came back into work, right away on Monday, and took the 8:30 class. And part of what, why this place is so special to me is, anyone who knows me closely, I made a post on social media kind of, letting people know and stuff. And then, I got a lot of hugs and a lot of people, just kind of letting me know that they were there. And then that was huge. That felt really good to know that, the people here cared and that they had my back. And, just moving through the workouts and doing them, kind of helped move some of that negative, sad energy as well. So at least for that hour, I felt a little bit more normal each day, and it helped, and it has helped. And I've been pretty consistent in getting into the classes, and I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to like rage out on the weights and go real hard or anything. I'm just trying to move through things and get a sweat in and be around people and people that I love, which is the people in this gym. And, this place is really, I think a good CrossFit gym or a place where you feel like, the people that you see there are kind of part of your family. It's really cool. And it's important to have a maybe a third place, or for me, it's my second home. For our members, it's going to be their third place. So having a place like that where you can go, you feel safe. I mean, I cried in front of a lot of members, ones that, I might not know like real well, like outside of the gym, but, I broke down in front of a few people, just talking about it. And everyone was just, they've been great. So I just wanted to kind of talk about how I really feel like, it doesn't matter if, you have a loved one die, maybe you lost your job, your dog passed away. There's a million things that can happen, but having a place like this to come move, not just sit with your thoughts, not just be inside of your house where your mind can just kind of get away from you. I think that it is a really cool thing. And I don't know, that's kind of like what I just wanted to like share that with everyone. And I might not have a ton to talk about, outside of that, I don't know. What do you think, Kate? I mean, you've been going through it as well. You were close with my brother, and how do you think like this has helped in the gym? And
I mean, I think it's tricky because whenever I go through, I've never gone through anything like this. Someone this close to me. I mean, maybe like aunts or uncles dying, but this just feels different and a lot more tragic. But when I have gone through hard things in the past, it's hard for me not to use exercise maybe as like an unhealthy outlet. Like I'm just going to I'm going to work out so hard and just bleed out of my eyeballs and, like eat like a robot. And then you just don't, it's a Band-Aid. You just don't feel anything. So I know that might come from like the opposite end of things. Yeah. But for a lot of people listening to this, you might be able to relate to that. Like when I go through hard times, that's my easiest default. And I guess if I'm going to just be robotic about anything, I think maybe that's the healthiest rather than, I've kind of made the joke with Brandon's parents, like, I would really like to open up a bottle of wine right now, but I might go through all of our wine.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep drinking those sparkling waters.
I know.
So for me, it's a lot of feeling, just trying to allow myself to feel things. And I think you've done an excellent job of that. But like, I kind of go into the mode of like, okay, how can I help? And I think that was important for your family to make calls to lawyers and set up the funeral. But I'm just like, do. And now I'm like, okay, you can feel this coming up. Just allow yourself to like open up and cry, just break down. And I think it's all necessary. It's grief is so hard. You can't tell someone how to grieve. But if you can allow yourself to feel pain and not turn that into anger, because that gets stuck in your body, and that comes out in some sort of pain somewhere, whether it, something's going to break down on your body, but allow yourself to just feel that grief and pain. Yeah. That's something that I've been trying to work on, and that's hard for me, but it will come out like, hey, I'm being really productive and I'm taking care of everybody, but I really just need to break down myself. So I'm good at like, I'm making meals for people. I'm trying to have your parents up. I'm trying to like execute on things. But I will always come in. I will always work out. It's just allowing myself to feel that. And I don't think that's the wrong thing to do. I think, to honor what your body's saying. Like there were a couple days where you just, our son had these wild nightmares where he's screaming out Braden's brother's name, and we didn't sleep like all night. And that next day you're like, hey, I'm staying at home.
Yeah,
and
I couldn't move.
I think that was the right move, where like if you just feel your body is broken that day, you shut it down. But otherwise you're moving that grief around, and you're moving energy, which I think is necessary to try to move through it and to feel it, not block it out, but to feel it. In the gym, people are just awesome here. They really are. They really, really care. And we just have really good quality people here, and that they're very genuine. And I always joke that like we're trying to make our own country club here, but like we don't have fake people here, and that's all you'll find. I think.
No, not really,
necessarily, but I feel like everyone's very genuine.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, like we had our gym too, and we, within the span of a couple of years, Chelsea's father passed away suddenly. We lost, all three of our dogs in a couple of years. So it was really cool to have a space in a community that was, our dogs were at the gym all the time. So it was just nice to be able to have a space where people we knew were very supportive at a time of loss. And, plenty of our members went through many things over the years. And just to have a social club where people work out that are very supportive of each other, and then you're going through some things. It's really a blessing to have, because sometimes people don't have that these days, right? They go to work and they have their family, and they don't really have any other clubs or things outside of that. Maybe they have the gym they go to, but it's not really a community place where you know anyone. And then we have these places, and it does make a huge difference. And, whether, if you've got, your daily routines of working out and exercise, and sometimes there's really no right or wrong way to kind of go through grief. I mean, there's certainly things that aren't as productive, like, going on a month-long bender is probably not great.
No.
You could have a day or two where I need a couple of glasses of wine, then kind of getting back into like, more productive or healthy kind of grieving habits and stuff. But sometimes, some people like to get a few hard workouts in. Sometimes, like for me, I don't know. I think when I've gone through really hard times, it might just have to be something kind of slower. It might be something where I might just go work out by myself. Like, it just depends.
Yep.
I think you kind of have to read what your mind and your body want at that time, and if it wants to be around people and do something in the gym that's hard, then that's fine. If it's something where, I'm going to go to the park and just go for a jog for a little bit. I need to be on my own. So I think everyone kind of handles things in their own way, but it is really nice to have a community of people, showing their support,
I think it depends on what happens too, like, and what you're kind of dealing with. Like, I can remember a long time ago, and it was very painful. I went through like a breakup with a girlfriend, and this was like early on when I was just starting CrossFit, before I was even in the Rogue gym, and I tried to just go nuts, like, working out, and it was like,
your revenge body.
Yeah. It worked until it didn't. Then I got hurt. Like,
that's totally different though. Like,
I got hurt.
Maybe the loss of like a pet or a human, I am like really sad. But if it's a breakup, I am doing I'm gonna pounce it. I'm angry. I'm not like grieving. I'm more angry.
That's
so of course.
That's exactly. It was a different. I was sad, but mad, and
exactly.
I remember just doing. It was the dumbest thing. Like, I was lifting with Graham, and we're building to a 5-rep heavy hang squat clean, and I'm just like, whatever you're gonna load on the bar, let's go. And he was just stronger than me, and like he just had like my 1 rep max on the bar, and he did it, and I'm like, all right, let's just send it and see what happens. I think I hit 1, and like my eyes are like popping out of my head, and then the second one, like, I just hit my elbow like right on my thigh, and almost completely broke my wrist. And I'm like, well, I can't grab anything for a month now.
It was worth it.
I knew when I picked up the bar, like, there's, next to no chance I'm going to make this happen, but let's go. Let's just start moving it and see what happens. I got 1 rep in, and
but you're right. I think
lesson
a lot of that is just like,
yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of an issue. At least for me, whenever I would go through breakups, it's just to try to like get your confidence back, and it's a different sort of thing, like you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not the same kind of grief.
Where this is just a
loved one passing away. I've tried to stay like, I want to push a workout enough to where, you get like a little bit of that endorphin release.
Yeah.
And like, I'm trying, but not that like over 85%. Yeah, not hitting that at all.
I think you're kind of stressed out already.
Exactly.
Like
I'm not adding anything.
Any more stress. This is
same with like weightlifting. Like, get it to a moderate level where it's like I feel like I'm doing something, but
what I
where it hurts.
Think happens sometimes is people want to hold on to grief. It's almost like honoring their loved one in a way, and I don't even know if it's something people do consciously.
Yeah.
But like, the more you feel like shit, the more like you're really
you love that person that much.
To show, and I don't know that it really works like that.
Yeah.
Or it's good for you, or just to lose that lack of care for yourself, and I don't think it helps you or anyone else, because then the less you work through it, and it's not that you're going to forget that person, but the less you can be there for other people that are also grieving, especially like, in a family loss like that.
I remember your mom saying something to that point, when we were talking to her this weekend, where Kate's mother's brother was murdered at like 38 years old, so almost the same age as my brother. So she knows exactly like the feeling, like almost identical, and that was like her closest sibling. She had she had a few siblings, but that was her closest sibling. And I remember her saying, it was months where if she wasn't thinking about him for 5 minutes, she almost like punished herself and felt guilty about it. I'm still in that phase where like my brother's the only thing I'm thinking about 24 hours a day, including it wakes me up, multiple times every night. And then maybe keeps me up probably around like 3 or 4 for the rest of the night. But I'm hoping to be able to move through that at some point instead of being sad, like be able to look back and smile. And I'm looking forward to when like the grief can evolve to that spot,
But you've made decisions, and again, there's no right or wrong, but I've had so many people say, well, you guys aren't coming in this week, are you? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. We own the gym, and we don't have to. And then I know everyone would be supportive, but this can also be a place that can help you heal too.
Yeah.
And
I want to come in,
to kind of just even if you're still thinking about him a little and doing work, it gives your mind a little bit of a break. And I had this class reunion, and Brandon's like, let's still go. And I think for a couple hours, you talk to other people about different things. Even we went to like dinner.
It was
before.
nice. It was very nice.
You said I think that would be interesting and be a healthy distraction. And when you were talking about this feeling of, man, if I'm grieving the loss of this person, but if I don't think about them often enough, I'm going to punish myself. And that is a really tricky feeling. Like, I get it. We lost one of our best friends a few weeks ago, and there is a time where it's the only thing you think about for a period of time is that person.
Yep.
Every minute. And then like those spaces get bigger and bigger. And it doesn't mean like you forgot about them, but like at some point you can't hold on to it too much, and your life has to kind of continue on. But I've been feeling myself like having a hard time not a hard time dealing with that, but noticing that space opening up now between how much I'm reflecting upon him or that experience. And it does give me an uncomfortable feeling of like, oh, I keep that person in my memory. Like I gotta keep doing that. And we do it, but I've noticed that feeling, especially even to, when we've lost our pets, or like, when I lost my dog, who was like my boy, like in 2018, like he was so important to me. I just noticed those stretches where I just wouldn't think about him as much, or I didn't see his picture as much. And like, ooh, sometimes it hurts to like kind of think about that. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know if people, talk about that enough, of like that guilty feeling of it's okay to kind of get back to a regular life where you're not holding on to that grief as much as you were in the beginning. Yeah.
And I think you can turn it into something positive. I think that's why people start like foundations if their loved one died of cancer, or even just, it's so soon right now, but we're going to Puerto Rico to spread Alex's ashes, and like talking to his girlfriend, like, let's plan a day. Let's do everything Alex would do. Because he had like certain things. He was very particular. Like, I like this coffee shop, or I like to go to this beach. I like to go to watch he was really big on a sunset. Like, let's go to this place to watch a sunset. And he had his places that he liked. And, he was very particular, and he always knew the best place to go. And if we did that every year, or whatever way you can honor that person or your pet, or, something simple, but it is really just like for you to spend that concentrated period of time. And I think it's just energy, that grief, that pain, it's energy. And that person, I believe they're just in a different form, but you can, think you can still honor them, and instead of a grief, it can be a positive thing. And I think sometimes sometimes people want to punish themselves because, you have all those what ifs,
And it's kind of, and it's not disrespectful. It's amazing how soon you can also be grieving and sad, but turn, start telling very funny stories about the loss of someone almost that day or the next day.
Yeah.
Because you're just processing
just a way
things.
of healing.
And I can't just keep torturing myself by talking how sad this is. Like, I have to bring up, I have to share the funniest things this person did, like almost immediately, because it just like makes us, it's also brings you a lot of joy to like, to reflect on how much this person made us all happy.
Yeah.
Or just,
And we were doing that a little bit with your parents too, just like telling some, he was really good at he used to do prank calls and they were just kind of talking about like some funny things that he would do. And
so he would when all of us are like the same age. So when we're growing up, you got tons of telemarketing calls,
landlines before caller ID.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. Lots of telemarketing calls, right around like dinner time, they just start rolling in, and you just answered the phone in those days. It wasn't like, no one answers their phone now, but everyone answered their phone. So my brother he was like, I don't know, again, this is dated for people, like the Jerky Boys were like these guys who did prank phone calls, kind of like Crank Yankers was on like Comedy Central. But he would just go into these characters like seamlessly, and they were hilarious. And he would just keep these guys on the line for like 20 minutes, like making them think
I felt anesthesia and my shoes fell off. Can you believe that? Like I'm trying to remember some of these Jerky Boys.
Yeah, he would do stuff just like that.
Sketches they would do.
Immediately would fall right into those like sketches just like that. And it got to the point where my mom, as soon as she would get one, she'd be like, "Oh, hold on, let me hand the phone to my husband," and she'd give it to my brother, and he would just go right into it, and then like the whole family would just be rolling around laughing, and that was just like something we did all the time. He'd even do it like we'd probably, me and my brother like to stay up real late watching, like Jean-Claude Van Damme movies and stuff like that. But sometimes we'd just be flipping channels and we'd be on like QVC and they'd be selling like swords or knives. He'd call in, to try and get on the show and stuff. Oh, yeah. And he'd call in and he would just do this like hillbilly impression, like asking like all kinds of questions about, we would be doing this until like 3 a.m. So yeah, we've been like telling stories like that. He was, again, he wasn't like, he's not like Three Stooges, like just a goofball, like, if you just run into him for 5 minutes, but you spent a little bit of time around him, and then he was like, to me, he was the funniest person, ever. So I'll definitely miss that, but have a lifetime full of those stories that I'll always, remember and talk about. And we're starting to kind of go through those, and we can share them and stuff. So yeah, it's a weird process, especially when it's someone who's so close and then they're young too. So when I've had grandparents die, aunts and uncles, luckily my parents are still around and healthy. And I was really close to them. The ones that have died, it's kind of been a rough 4 years just on our family in general. Like, I don't know, we're averaging about every 9 months a major family member's going down, kind of since COVID, for all non-COVID reasons. But, this one is different though, because he hadn't raised kids and, or lived into like an older age, and kind of lived his full life that you're just used to seeing people live. Some of these relatives died young, 66. I think Keith was 59. My grandmother was in her 90s. But, you know, he was 40 for about 10 weeks, I think, and just like right in the prime of his life. So this feels different, and it's like a very intense grief that is really hard to shake. And it's like, you know, you see it in movies, you know, where like you know, like a military movie where they'll like bring the flag up or something like that, and you know the parents are crushed, or you know, a spouse or a brother dies. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like a river runs through it is probably the it's a book and a movie, but it's probably the one that hits home and is the closest to it, where the character, it's played by Brad Pitt in the movie, dies unexpectedly. He's a young guy, and then the older brother, who would be kind of almost like me, and then his parents are just like horribly grieving over it. I remember that movie is like maybe a day or two after like that movie and that book, like really, and my brother was a fisherman, like the best fisherman in the family. So that movie's all about like fly fishing, I believe in Montana. Good movie, like early mid 90s. Good remake of a book, but I'd seen that and I'm like, man, that looks like that's real. I mean, it seemed really sad, and now I know and feel exactly what that's like. And you just have to keep moving through it, you know, instead of I'm not trying to distract from it. I'm trying to, you know,
it's weird to say that I'm proud of you through this, but you've done a lot of work on yourself internally this last year, and I think you being able to feel the pain and just grieve is really important. And it's important for our kids to see where it's sad. And our son, it was kind of sad. He's like, will Dad ever be the same? And I'm like, probably not, but he'll be okay. And he's like, I've just never seen a male adult cry. And I was like, you know, that's probably not good. And that probably needs to change. But guys need to cry too, or, you know, it really, like, it will hurt you. And I think it's good. It's good for the kids to see that and not hold it in. And, you know, I think with the cultures changing now, where like people are starting to talk about things like our parents' generation maybe didn't. And I think that's positive, but it's still hard to not like repress that pain. And for me, and that's what I talk about all day long, is feelings and getting at the root of the problem. And it's not about food, but we use that as like a tool to kind of like keep us distracted, or alcohol, or whatever we do that's not healthy. But it's so hard for me to feel it. And I've just been, my default is taking care of everyone and then baking a ton. I'm like, I know I'm eating too much right now, but I'm just going to let myself do this for a little bit. And just being aware, like, hey, this is what you're doing. Let's just stop doing that so you can feel what you need to feel, and freak out, break down. It's usually not as bad as we think, you know, as the anxiety's coming up. When you actually like explore it and just let it go, it's not as bad. And I think your big challenge is to, like, from here on out, just not letting that turn to anger. Yeah,
it can be. I've had a few moments where I've just been snappy, and the first week I was so sad I couldn't get mad at anything. Like, I was just so sad, and then like so scared like something else was going to happen or something. So I was just like, you know, the way I felt. And then, like, you know, this week, like, if something was a little agitating, you know, being a little sharp, yelling or getting mad about stuff, which I didn't even see it coming. It just kind of happened. But yeah, being angry, like, for long periods of time, I've found to be the, like, least productive thing as an adult. Like, it doesn't, rage and anger doesn't do much for you, and it kind of, if anything, it turns it turns into like physical pain and ailment and just wastes all your like mental capacity. It's not a productive emotion to hang on to for long periods of time. It just isn't. So I don't know. I've learned that in the last couple years, I think. Like rage, and
it does feel like it feels good though.
Yeah, it does.
It's not productive and it's not like valuable long period, but like it is the polar opposite of joy.
Yep.
You know? So like there is a satisfying quality to it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a state that gives you energy. It's just not good. It'll eat you alive at some point.
Yeah. You're exactly right. That's a great way of putting it. I couldn't really verbalize that. That's a great way of putting it. But yeah, I think today was just a day to get a podcast in, share some thoughts. Kate and I already had a trip planned. We'll be in Europe for 2 weeks celebrating our 10th year anniversary. So, you know, we were almost on the fence, like if we were going to cancel it when this happened. But, you know, being by the ocean in Italy and stuff probably will be pretty healing and not the worst thing to happen right now. So I think it'll be.
I mean, I definitely, thought of that too when this happened and I knew your trip was coming up. Well, I think it'll be good. I think it's still good to go on there. It'll make it different, but I don't think necessarily in a bad way. I think it'll be some good time to
What's nice, we
get away
don't
and
have
spend
a
some time
ton
with each other. And,
planned, so it's not like we're like on a group thing every day too.
Yeah, it's not going to be like a super like spring breaky like.
No, but I think it'll almost be just like, it's gonna sound terrible, like good time.
Yeah, I know.
And traveling can be very stressful. I just think going overseas, you're going to take a lot of flights, buses, transportation. Once you get there, just kind of sink into it and spend some time with each other, just be in beautiful places and just enjoy, what you built together for a while. And I think it could be great.
So. I do too. I appreciate that, man. I think we'll stick a fork in it right here, and then we will be back.
Be the first week of August.
In the first week of August. So taking a short hiatus from the podcast, be back the first week of August. We'll see you then.
Bye, guys.